injectors did you bring them again?
25. We've got 2 sets. We've got the set out of Phase Nero, the O2, and a set out of the Deuce. Inside here we have the set that came out of Mini, I think, when we bought Mini and it wouldn't start. And then we have the set of remans that didn't seem to straighten Mini out. So we bought some new injectors after those remans. And then we got some out of Blue Stripe that are just probably dead, but worth checking.
Welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
So we got some Sprinter injectors for us, got some 612s and 647s.
Yep.
And he's getting them cleaned up, and I'll get them all mounted up. We're not going to start anything till you guys get in there, so you can see kind of the whole process. But they just, the way it starts off is they just basically give them an external clean. You get the heavy carbon off them, get the nozzles cleaned up so they don't, that stuff falls into the test stand. We're a Bosch authorized common rail rebuild facility. So we specialize in rebuilding diesel fuel injection components, whether it be injection pumps or injectors, and we do turbochargers as well. But we're authorized by the manufacturers of the fuel injection system, so Bosch, Denso, Standardine, Delphi. These are all the various manufacturers, who make the fuel injection components for the engine manufacturer. So of course Mercedes doesn't make fuel injectors. They sub that out to somebody else.
When you rebuild 647 injectors, do you also assign a new coating value too?
Yep.
Sweet.
So our test stand, which you guys will see here shortly, it's the only piece of equipment authorized by Bosch, or made by Bosch, that actually will generate a new IMA code, which is the injector mass adjustment code. Okay.
Nice.
And so that code that's on the current injector obviously was only valid when the injector was originally built.
Right. After
it's been disassembled and messed with, or even after it's worn for so many years, that code really becomes invalid then. So once we rebuild the injector, it gets, based on its performance, it gets issued a new IMA code. Then what we do is we have a laser engraving machine. We laser engrave the new code onto the solenoid, and we black out the old one.
Nice.
So of course that's a vital important item that gets overlooked by many. We're set up to run 5 in there right now. Typically we only run 4 at a time, but what they call it. Basically small engines are all Crees and big engines are all Crins.
Yeah.
And then with some exceptions in there. We actually run 6 Crees at a time, or we can only run 4 Crins at a time. So normally everything we build is Duramax and Cummins and things like that, which are all Crin injectors. So normally we're set up for 4. So he was over there converting the bench to set up for 5, so we can run a set of yours at a time at least. And you'll have a report that'll show you the values of each injector at every test point. There's about 5 test points. There's a leak test, and then there's a full load, part load, light load, and pilot injection. So those are your variety of tests. And we start off with older equipment here, older fuel injection systems, mechanical fuel injection systems. That's where these benches come into play. So if you think of it kind of like a dyno, but where a dyno, the engine would drive the machine. In this case here, the machine drives the pump just as it would an engine itself. And basically we would have the pump on here. We'd have a specification from the manufacturer that says at X RPM, at so much throttle, the pump should put out so much fuel. And they make all the mechanical adjustments as needed to bring the pump back into spec. As technology continued and we got into more advanced pumps, we got into electronic gauge pumps. That's what this test bench came about. Same idea here. The pump would be mounted on here though. In this case, we hit go and basically come back an hour and a half later and it does all the work for us from the standpoint that the pumps will actually have their own computer module built into them. The test stand will do evaluation testing of what the pump's output. We'll write a software just for that pump, download it into its own computer, into the pump's computer, and then rerun the pump against off its own brain basically to see if it's in spec. We also run all of our CP3s, CP1s on here as well. Those are our common rail pumps that be on the 612s or 647s. As we got into the common rail age, here we are here. So this is a similar bench with some other packages added to it. This is where we run all our common rail injectors. And because it's common rail, we deal with high pressure, hence the reason for the plexiglass enclosure. This stand is set up to go to, I believe it's 250 bar. I believe is what it's set up for. It's 36,000 PSI, so much higher than what we'll be operating typically here. He's already went in there after he's cleaned them up and he's put them on. He's already went and put the relevant data in here as far as serial numbering of which injector the serial number for each injector. That way when we get the report, we'll say serial number so-and-so, so-and-so. That way we know, which one we're going to put out. So what you'll see there actually is a CP3 pump that's on it. That Stan actually runs the pump, and basically that's the only purpose for the majority of this bench is to spin that pump, just to create the volume in the fuel. Whereas that rail you'll see in the back there is actually the regulating assembly back there. So that's the regulating assembly, and that's the pressurizing the distributor rail up here at the top. Actually, one step even further, because we're an authorized shop, Bosch has a program called the quality scan program. So when we get done running an injector, what ends up happening is if it passes and validates everything on the test stand, we go through some paperwork and worksheets where we basically say for that particular injector, you know, it had the test stand has the test results of how it performed, but then we go back and say this part was replaced, this part was replaced, so you build a file, a rebuild or repair file for it. And that injector is issued on the Sprinter injectors. It's issued a sticker with the barcode on it, and that foil sticker gets put on the injector. And there's an app actually from Bosch where you can actually pull your phone up, scan it, and it will tell you who rebuilt that injector, the performance data, and what parts were replaced. So the idea behind that is Bosch is if we're going to put our name on and all that, we're going to guarantee that it's the same value injector that rolled off the assembly line at our factory. So that's kind of the way, you know, they've validated the aftermarket for what we do as far as doing it the correct way. Because obviously there's a lot of people out there doing it the incorrect way. You know, substandard parts, substandard assemblies.
So when your injectors go out, they have a barcode on them. And from what I gathered, what you just said, anybody in this official Bosch program should be putting that barcode on injectors that they send out that are officially rebuilt, remanufactured.
That are in our program, yes. And as far as that works, also that gives you a nationwide warranty. If someone put it in and had a problem cross country with it, and they pulled it out and take it to another shop, and they tested it, confirmed it was a problem, it's warranted through the Bosch system. The Bosch will actually cover the warranty as if it was. So we start off with what they call a clean run, where we're just basically going to get some fuel flowing through the injectors. We're going to make sure we don't have any leaks externally, and we're going to just flush out whatever's in the injector. We got into the common rail rebuilding with Bosch about 8-9 years ago, about when Bosch rolled out that program for North America. It's been available overseas for a number of years, but it's what Bosch calls their stage 3 rebuilding. And that was the only available that was available to the States. Stage 1 and 2 was Europe only. But stage 3 is a complete rebuild of the injector. So we actually take the injector completely, we disassemble it entirely, it goes through a cleaning process, and then the individual components that are there's some components that are replaced 100% of the time, no questions asked. Right. And that still holds true. It's my father.
Shout out.
Dad. But some of those components are replaced 100% of the time, no questions asked. The other ones go through an inspection process, and basically we have a criteria from Bosch saying that they can or cannot be reused. If they can be reused, they're reused. If they can't be, they won't be. But every injector gets the same rebuild regardless of its history or past, you know.
Right.
Of course, naturally, with the 612s and 647s, you know, we do see, you know, because of Black Death and people having to really hammer at them, you do get some bodies sometimes, or some that are kind of, you got some tool marks and stuff like that, or the solenoids might be stained one color or the other. And we got some different, you know, ways to get them cleaned up. But even if they're somewhat ugly when they're all done, you know, because that we can ensure that they're working perfectly fine. You know, you close the hood, you won't see them. So after we do a clean run, you just get some fuel flushed through the injectors. Now we're going to do a leak test. So with leak test, what we're going to do is we're actually going to drop the discharge chambers here. So if you think about it, when the engine's operating, only one injector fires at a time, right? So the other 4 are in this state, basically pressurized, not being actuated. So we want to basically make sure there's no leakage there.
No return or almost no return is good, isn't it?
Well, in this case here, yes, but while we're operating, we do depend on so much return to cool the solenoid. So for normal operation, we expect to see return, but excessive return is very bad, but no return is kind of equal and opposite bad. You know, return is important to carry heat away from the injector as well. The way we do an existing or used injector that's in the field, we will enter the existing code into the test stand before we start, because it's a place to do that. And what it will do is it will look at its current performance, and it will say, okay, based on its current performance, the existing code is still valid or it's not. Okay, and if it's not, it's either outside the coding limits, or like, hey, here's a new code for it. So there was a couple different criteria there. As far as if you take the same injector, you ran it 5 times, you'd probably get 5 different codes. And you'll see many times that one it will test, It will be within the testing criteria, the service criteria, but outside the IMA coding criteria. So will the injector still work in the engine? Absolutely. There's no longer a valid code available for it. Right. Will it work? Sure, absolutely. And the test for the 647 is very similar. Conditions and the actual specs are different. It's a different engine, different calibration. So what we'll do here is we'll go to the end, we'll actually get a report, and we'll print this out and get it to you guys. But basically, this is the short report that only shows you where there's failures at. Go down a little further, see that, and then we can actually go full log and see all the test specs for every single condition, regardless of pass or fail. So right now we're looking at 2 good injectors, basically A and C. High return, really the big culprit there on that one, which can cause all kinds of things. You have to remember that too. It's all a balance. So if the return is so high on one injector, it's a common rail. It upsets the whole balance of everything. Despite their name, the high pressure pump doesn't put any high pressure out. Okay? Okay, people love to hear that one. Okay? Yeah. Pumps put out volume. Every pump. I don't care if it's a water pump or it's a well pump or anything else. Yep. Pumps put out volume. Pressure is a byproduct of restricting the volume. Yep. When we have volume, it comes up and runs into 5 injectors that are not being actuated, 5 deadheads. Pressure builds. Pressure builds. Okay. If we have one with that's not holding the pressure back, we have low pressure. So we get all the time people walk in with a pump, we like, oh, I don't have any pressure, I need a pump. Well, more times than not, it's an injector. We sell about 500 injectors for every pump we sell. Oh wow! Yeah, okay. Across all brands, not just Sprinter related, just across all common rail.
You mentioned turbos. Do you test them as well as rebuild them?
No, strictly, yeah. Now we can test actuators. Actuators we can test. We do have a standalone benchtop actuator testing tool where we can actually plug directly into the actuator away from the vehicle, and we can check range of length, we can check effort. There's a couple different things depending on the manufacturer of it. Like for instance, it's on the 647, what's on the electronic actuator there. That's somewhat of a stupid actuator, and what I mean by that is there's not a whole lot of smarts there. It basically gives us strict feedback. You know, we tell it to do something and it does it. There's no learned positions and things like that, whereas you get some of these fancier ones that are on a whole set turbo that actually have to be cleared, calibrated, installed, positions learned, limits learned, and all that has to be done. And then we can go back and test all that feedback. So do it all on the benchtop. That way when it goes in the vehicle, it's plug and play. And as far as turbochargers on that, we can either source an entire unit right directly from Garrett for those, or we also have some aftermarket options as well that we've had very good success with.